In this week's edition, big migration cuts in Canada. Will Australia follow suit? And where will all the 482 visa holders who want permanent residency fit in? And Australia's shortage occupation list. Where does your occupation lie? Hi, I'm Karl Konrad and welcome to this week's edition of Australian Immigration News. We provide you an insight that only 26 years experience of running a professional practice can bring to the table. And just a quick note, we are closing in on that magical 100,000 subscriber mark, so give us a hand to reach it by the end of this year. Migration is getting tough all over the place, with Canada announcing a 21% reduction in its yearly intake target.
Today we're announcing that we will reduce the number of immigrants we bring in over the next 3 years, which will result in a pause in the population growth over the next 2 years.
They are reducing from the 500,000 permanent residents to just 395,000 in 2025. But of course, Canada's position is very different to Australia, as it is dealing with a shrinking population. So they were aiming high with a big 500,000. But it appears that was too much, too fast.
All of which we are implementing with a single aim: stabilize our population growth to give all levels of government time to catch up, time to make the necessary investments in healthcare, in housing, in social services to accommodate more people in the future.
Unless the Liberals get in next year, it is unlikely Australia would follow suit with permanent migration reductions. At the moment, migration is the only thing keeping the country out of recession, a position which both sides of politics would like to preserve. Is there enough space for all the 482 visa holders seeking permanent residency in Australia to achieve their dreams? Sadly, the figures indicate that fitting them all in may be a major problem without significantly modifying the planning levels. Tonight's story is not about trying to create stress, it's actually the opposite. It's just the beginning of a conversation so we can avoid rising concern. Most of you who are interested in this visa have witnessed the 186 employee nomination scheme processing times slowly blowing out. In reality, it used to take about 12 months for a 186 visa application. Now it's taking longer. And I don't believe for a minute this processing time figure currently on the department's website. You will notice it also says, we are receiving a high volume of applications in this group, which has impacted the time frame for allocating and assessing applications. So what that actually means is that we cannot rely on this information. Of course, some applications under Direction 105, which soon may become Direction 109, will be processed much faster. These directions give priority to certain occupations and to employers in regional areas, which of course will considerably distort the processing times published on the department's website. Our Freedom of Information request demonstrates that as of the 30th of September, 39,333 186 ENS visa applications were on hand, meaning they had yet to be finalised. This means that the entire allocation of this financial year's planning number of 44,000 is probably already spoken for. This is despite the nearly 20% increase for the DOHA planning levels over the last financial year for the employer-sponsored PR visa category. Anyone who applies now may have to wait until next financial year or longer for their case to be assessed. Those with priority under Direction 105 applying now will simply displace anyone else to longer processing times. Remember, you must stay with your sponsoring employer throughout the entire processing period. The planning levels on the DOHA website include both primary and secondary visa applicants. This statistical data shows for the last financial year that for Indian, Sri Lankan, South African and Zimbabwe passport holders, 482 visa number of secondary applicants was significantly higher than the primary visa applicants. Indian passport holders, the second highest number of temporary skilled visa holders, were granted 7,770 primary applicants last financial year, but over 10,000 family members. Interestingly, the Philippines passport holders, who had the highest number of temporary skilled visa holders in Australia at 9,380 primary applicants, had only 5,820 dependents. The number of dependents included in the application dramatically impacts the number of skilled workers Australia seeks. It raises serious questions of whether the secondary applicant's family members should be counted when determining planning levels. The figures should focus on how many skilled workers we are actually getting into the country, not the number of their family unit. That doesn't mean, of course, they cannot be included. It just means the focus on the numbers should be on the number of primary skilled applicants we are securing. Our FOI also revealed that as of the 4th of October, we have 183,883 482 visa holders in the country. 100,086 are primary visa holders and 83,797 are secondary applicants. It is natural to assume that many of these visa holders will wish to remain in Australia since there is a new avenue that all have a PR pathway. While we support in principle that they should all have a PR pathway, where will we put them all in the context of planning levels? It would take only about 25% of the primary visa holders to be sponsored by their employers for permanent residency to swamp the current visa allocations. DOHA's data also shows that 101,530 temporary skilled visas were granted in total for the last financial year. If that trend continues, we will be back at the very high pre-pandemic levels, but remember that short-term visa stream holders had no access to permanent residency back then. In February 2023, the Prime Minister made it a personal goal to remove permanent temporariness from our visa system. He wants people to be able to transition to permanent residency after a period of working here and proving themselves to be valued, hard-working members of our society. He made this goal quite clear in his National Press Club address.
And all of this will be complemented by the work we're doing to clear the visa backlog and simplify our migration system, with greater emphasis on permanent residency and citizenship. Once again, greater emphasis on security.
It is an honourable aim, and so far there have been 2 significant milestones in achieving this goal. New Zealanders in Australia on the 444 temporary resident working visas now have access to citizenship after just 4 years of living here. And in November 2023, 482 visa holders in the short-term stream obtained a pathway to permanent residency after just 2 years. Now, the first one was a statistically clever move. In the past, New Zealanders had to apply for permanent residency, depending on their income. Of course, this meant they took up much valued positions on the skilled migration visa program using the subclass 189. By giving them citizenship directly and bypassing the PR program, significant numbers of skilled workers from other countries can gain their permanent residency. On the flip side, it did open a potential floodgate of New Zealanders flocking here with Australian citizenship in their sights. Jobs and Skills Australia has published its occupation shortage list. This list will be a useful reflection of the occupations that may make it onto the core skilled occupation list, due to be released at any moment by the Department of Immigration. If you go to the JSA website page, you can find the list here. And the most useful tool I found was to go to the sort and filter icon and then go to the shortage ratings and tick shortage. Then click on Show or Hide Regions and tick National. Then press the Apply button. You will then get a full list of the 293 occupations considered in shortage on a national basis, and you can scroll through and find the occupation you are looking for. The good news is that cooks and chefs are on the list, but unfortunately accountants are not. You can also filter by state and territories to get an idea of the type of occupations in demand in your particular region. The state and territory governments are undoubtedly also using this database as a reference guide to which occupations they are giving priority to when handing out invitations. If you select New South Wales, for example, you get 322 occupations in shortage, much more than their own restrictive occupation list for the 190 and 491 visas. Of course, many of these 322 filtered occupations on JSA's list are not on the skilled occupation list for New South Wales to choose from. Anyway, take a look and have a play with the filter, and you may be surprised what you can find. And before we go, let's take a quick look at one of our viewers' comments. M. Shoad Arman writes in and says, so I assume these new 3000 mate visa holders do not need accommodation in Australia. Only international students who need accommodation and make a housing crisis here. Indeed, that is exactly what I wanted to say in last week's edition, but I thought I would be diplomatic and leave it out. Thanks for highlighting that we are all sick of hypocritical politicians. Stay tuned for next week's edition by subscribing to the channel and turning on that notification bell. And all of you, don't forget to give us a hand by pressing the like icon. In next week's edition, we will be talking about the problems some people are facing when waiting for their 191 PR applications after already serving the 3 years wait before they can lodge it. And remember, if you need a hand, we are always here. You can book a consultation by going to our website, or if you're in a hurry, just pick up the phone. As always, take care out there, and I'll see you next time. So bye for now.